We joyously celebrate this expansion of ministries, the opportunities it provides for the baptized to participate in the communion and mission of the church, and the increased capacity it gives the church to meet the needs of the community and the world. If you think about it, I venture out here, I'm getting into sociological claim, but I suspect if we did a study of the typical Roman Catholic parish in 1960 and the typical Roman Catholic parish in 2010, we have fewer priests and religious and far more ministry going on. This is a significant work, significant development. I'm not saying there's a causal effect, they just coincide. This is a manifestation of the bounteous gifts of the Holy Spirit bestowed on the people of God for the building up of the church and ultimately for our mission in the world as the sacrament of Christ. Third, the participants in the Collegeville Ministry Seminar 2 endorsed the 7 points of convergence from the first seminar. We believe that these principles, together with conciliar documents and various episcopal statements, comprise a foundation on which to build a sound theology of vocation and authorization for lay ecclesial ministry. We have the raw materials. Fourth, our efforts over the last few years have taken to heart in particular principles 1 and 7 of the first seminar. In case you don't remember, Principle 1, theologies of ministry must begin with an experiential description of ministry today. That's why we want to talk to you. Principle 7, these principles call us to an ongoing ecclesial discernment and a fresh articulation of an ordering of ministries in the church in order to recognize emerging ministries and changes in church practice. We've really been guided by those. Inspired by these principles, the second seminar and the symposiums of 2007 and this one in 2011 have brought together practitioners from national ministry organizations, bishops, and theologians to engage in this ongoing ecclesial discernment on the experience of ministry in the Roman Catholic Church in the United States. This has quite intentionally not been a conversation just among academic theologians. That would have been less rich than this conversation. During this same period, of course, the U.S. bishops engaged in their own process of ecclesial discernment on the reality of lay people in ministry and its meaning theologically and practically. The fruit of that discernment is Co-Workers in the Vineyard of the Lord, a resource for guiding the development of lay ecclesial ministries approved by the U.S. bishops in 2005. Like the rest of us, reflecting on the experience of lay people in ministry, Co-Workers highlighted vocation and authorization as topics deserving particular attention. We've sought to give them that attention in this second seminar. Now, as a result of our research, conversation, and listening, we propose the following points of convergence as principles to shape this theology of vocation and authorization for lay ministry. There we go. First of all, something of a preamble, like the Constitution. Lots of words there, but you can get this elsewhere. A definition so that we know what we're talking about. Here and throughout our work, we're using the definition of lay ecclesial ministry from Co-Workers, which is what's on the screen. Within the many ministries of the baptized is a smaller group on whom this document focuses. Those men and women whose ecclesial service is characterized by authorization of the hierarchy to serve publicly in the local church, leadership in a particular area of ministry, close mutual collaboration with the pastoral ministry of bishops, priests, and deacons, preparation and formation appropriate to the level of responsibilities that are assigned to them. Previous documents from our conference have called such women and men lay ecclesial ministers and their service lay ecclesial ministry. We continue that usage here. So this is our definition. Now, points of convergence. Number 1, and there'll be a handout later with these points on them, so you needn't worry about getting this all down if you were so inclined. Number one, lay ecclesial ministry is a work of the Holy Spirit in the church. The emergence of this particular form of ministry is a manifestation in our day of the abundance of gifts bestowed on the church by the Spirit for the vitality of the community and the effectiveness of its mission in the world. In putting these gifts to work, lay ecclesial ministers are continuing the ministry of Jesus Christ. As in biblical times and every age since, the Spirit calls forth the ministers and ministerial forms needed in our day to serve the mission of Christ. Lay ecclesial ministry has emerged as lay women and lay men have responded generously to a renewed awareness of the implications of their baptism and to the needs of the church and the world. The emergence of lay ecclesial ministry is a sign of the continuing vitality and responsiveness of the church as it gives birth to new forms of ministry that enable it to carry out its mission in the world. Lay ecclesial ministry is not a temporary response to the declining number of priests and religious, but an authentic work of the Spirit for the good of the church. As such, lay ecclesial ministry ought to be affirmed, celebrated, and incorporated more fully into the theology and ministerial structures of the church. It's a work of the Holy Spirit. Point 2. Baptism is the sacramental source that empowers the lay ecclesial minister to carry out the mission of Christ and the church. The vocation, apostolate, or ministry of the baptized comes from Christ through baptism. Thus, lay ecclesial ministers are sacramentally empowered for their ministry by baptism. However, the authority to exercise that power in a leadership role as a lay ecclesial minister comes from the public authorization for ministry after a period of vocational discernment and formation. Point 3. The vocation to lay ecclesial ministry is discerned both personally and ecclesially. As with the discernment of other vocational calls, discernment of a call to lay ecclesial ministry involves attention to the gifts of the individual, the needs of the community, and the oversight of the church's ordained leaders. The vocation to lay ecclesial ministry is different than other vocations in the church in that it is not a call to a particular state of life, marriage or orders, nor is it necessarily a lifelong commitment such as ordination or marriage. Point 4. Lay ecclesial ministers enter into a distinctive set of relationships within the life of the church, defined by the authorization of the hierarchy, leadership in a particular area of ministry, mutual collaboration with the ordained, and appropriate formation. As ecclesial, the vocation to lay ecclesial ministry takes shape as a distinctive set of relationships within the ministerial life of the church. By virtue of their preparation, leadership, close collaboration with the ordained, and authorization, lay ministers are called into a new and distinctive set of relationships or way of relating to the community, to its members, and to its leadership. Point 5. Lay ecclesial ministers serve in the name of the church, which distinguishes their ministry from the broader participation of all the lay faithful in the communion and mission of the church. The call to lay ecclesial ministry is rooted in the baptismal call to holiness and mission that is incumbent on every believer. However, lay ecclesial ministers also receive the further call and authorization to serve formally and publicly on behalf of the church. To use the language of the first seminar, it is an example of an ordered ministry that involves a public ecclesial repositioning in the community as the lay ecclesial minister stands in a new position within the ecclesial community. Thus, the lay ecclesial minister ministers in the name of the church. Point 6. The bishop or his delegate authorizes the lay ecclesial minister form this ministry in the name of the church. Authorization is the act of entrusting one with a mission to perform a ministry in the name of the church. It confers the authority to minister in the name of the church. It formalizes a relationship of communion with the bishop, the local pastor, and the community. And it defines the role the lay ecclesial minister will undertake in the community while establishing accountability to church authority and to the people being served. Point 7. Because lay ecclesial ministers serve in the name of the church, some form of public ritual celebration of this ministry is necessary. Rooted in the Incarnation and a sacramental imagination, Catholic tradition and practice are rich in signs and symbols, typically embedded in and given meaning by rituals. In this community, a public ritual validates the vocation and authorization of the lay ecclesial minister to serve in the name of the church, in the name of that community. And it helps all members of the community celebrate the lay ecclesial minister's new role in the community and the increase in the community's capacity for service. Finally, point 8. The presence of lay ecclesial ministers calls the church to modify canon law, provide systems of support, and adjust parish, diocesan, and national conference structures to reflect this new reality in the ministerial life of the church. The tradition of the church includes rich institutional structures and a system of law that supports its communal life, its mission and ministry, and its ministers. It is incumbent upon the community to continue this tradition by creating structures to support the growth and stability of lay ecclesial ministry, including appropriate modifications in particular law, as well as the universal law of the church. So all together, and we'll have, as I say, a handout in a moment, but the work of the Holy Spirit. Baptism is the sacramental source. It's a vocation that is discerned both personally and ecclesially. Lay ecclesial ministers enter into a distinctive set of relationships within the life of the church. These relationships constitute serving in the name of the church, which distinguishes them from other services. The bishop or his delegate authorizes the lay ecclesial minister. Because they serve in the name of the church, some form of public ritual recognition is appropriate. And lastly, this calls for changes in structures and canon law. Now we review these. Vic will take care of this, but it's time to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Bill has given you enough ideas, enough information to spend the next 3 months here. And I would just say that we have students coming in a few weeks, and so you're going to have to move you a little bit more quickly on that. You're going to now begin the work of the day. And I'm going to sort of tell you very quickly.